This computer. All right, everyone. Today is our next episode in the Prop Tech Genius Show. And the genius that I have today is Dominique Wilson. Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, Amy, for welcoming me. It's very humbling to be here.
It's awesome. So, we're going to talk about kind of Dominique's journey, who he is, where he's from, what he did. And then the cool topic is about building your engineering team. So, as startups grow and scale, there's always going to be flexion points on when you need more people. And trust me, when I started as a founder, I didn't know the first thing about building an engineering team. So, this is going to be really cool kind of as we talk through that and things, and he can give us his experience on what that is. But I just need to shut up at this moment, and I'm just going to let you go and you tell us kind of who you are, where you're from, what you've been doing, all those great things. So take
Yeah.
it away.
Well, thank you very much, Amy, again for welcoming me. My name is Dominique Wilson. I am an economic development professional. I've supported organizations both domestically in the U.S., but also abroad in Africa, and some a little bit in Europe as well. So I'm a tech founder. So I built up my first company called RiseKit, RISEKIT. We are an economic mobility tool that connects people to jobs and non-for-profit resources in one space. Me and my team, Matt Strauss, and our colleagues, we built this company to be an economic mobility resource to enable under-resourced community members to find opportunities. And I would say we had multiple iterations of our platform. Right, it wasn't something that was a turnkey right away, but we recognized that we had to create an MVP. For those that are not familiar, minimal viable product, where you test something out and then you stick it to the wall. And so I've been able to support organizations across those spectrums, building business. And then ultimately now I'm also a board member and also an investor into Simba Technology Revolutions. It's a boutique software development consulting firm that we source our talent all the way from Africa. And our talent, historically, before even joining our teams, have supported companies such as Hacker Bay, Microsoft, even Goldman Sachs. And so, from my lessons building out RiseKit as a non-technical founder, I learned a lot, and the learning curve was went up and down, and it was something that I very much
Yep.
appreciated. And so it allowed me to open up a new insights. Well, also that this is why now I want to be able to help other businesses to elevate their voice, but also do it in a way that more strategic, but also more lean to their process as well.
Very, very cool. So, what was the impetus behind Rice Kit? Like, what was it? Like, what made you go, oh, I want to do that? Just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that there's a number of elements that contributed what we like to call a mixed bag, but I find that there was an opportunity that came upon me when I was in college, actually. And I got a chance to meet Matt Strauss, who's our CEO, and really the brainchild of this. And I would also lean on the emphasis that the right time, the right moment. If those haven't
Mhm.
already, check out the book Outliers. It's by Malcolm Gladwell, and it speaks to time and place.
Good.
So I met him, and I would say that it was a kindred spirit, and particularly on a lens of, for me personally, I didn't share this briefly, but I'm also from Chicago. For
Mhm.
those that know about Chicago, for those that don't, Chicago is unfortunately in some places can be rough, and so you know, coming outside and coming outside for me personally were very dangerous at times. And I actually lost family members due to the gang violence in Chicago. So, but I also know that there's some good shiny parts, right? There's so much good that's happening, and so much growth as well. And so, that's I find that because of the love that I received in my home, even though when I walked outside, sometimes it was treacherous, but because of the love I received in my home, my trajectory, my lifestyle, my opportunities were different. And so it really taught me a lot that when we pour into individuals with intent and with purpose, then a lot can happen. And so that's what Rise Kit really is, that emphasis, where basically it's a one-stop shop for individuals to find opportunities that they may not be familiar with in their community. So they can find opportunities in their immediate zip code. And so we work with public-private partnerships. So we currently work
Mhm.
with the Department of Family Support Services, which is part of the local government here in the
Mhm.
Chicagoland area, and
Mhm.
specifically their workforce development delegates. And so we support their collective delegation that they fund, which is about 54 workforce development partners. Wow.
Mhm.
And that's just some of them that we touch within the Chicagoland area. So we allow those case managers to collaborate with each other versus competing at times for
Right.
funding. And so, and by also being able to allow shared resources to enable each other to create impact more efficiently. And so we're able to, track the impact, but also share jobs. So
Mhm.
we find jobs by finding companies at RiseKit, while also we find those partners that are brought on board, those not-for-profits, those foundations, those government
Mhm.
institutions, they add their employee partners. And so it becomes a community impact at scale initiative that is enabling opportunities for individuals that may not be able to find in themselves.
That's great. So, when you were so if we're any sort of startup that's looking for talent, right? So
Mhm.
the talent that you're finding is really, is it folks that are just looking for jobs, or is it folks that are being retrained, or is it what's the majority of the folks that you're finding? I'm just curious.
Sure. So Rise Kit really is focused on entry level mid management opportunities in a
Hmm.
very different, like I would say, verticals of industries. And so that could be hospitality, that could be manufacturing, that could be
Hmm.
healthcare, that could be across customer service. Some in tech around like I would say help desk, but also some I would say project management as well. And
Okay.
so we have ultimately um, we work with organizational partners that also can be enable individuals around training and upskilling. And
Yeah.
so we wouldn't administer those trainings, right? We will identify respective partners that would basically post their resources on RiseKit, and
Hmm.
then individuals can apply for those opportunities. And so we don't limit those resources to be available to our community. So if individuals are looking for opportunities for master's degrees or even fellowships, right now
Hmm.
those opportunities can be posted on RiseKit. But we really focus on folks that are even coming out of transitional experiences where they were incarcerated. So for example, we work with the Five Ventures. And the
Hmm.
Five Ventures is a national non-for-profit that focuses on individuals transitioning out of incarceration and
Hmm.
enabling them to find their job opportunities post, but also becoming entrepreneurs as well. And so
It's great.
uh, so those type of partners are across the board when it comes to that, and we work with different foundations and now starting to reach different states such as Texas, Tennessee, accordingly.
Very cool. So, we have two things. We talk about what you do, but then also how you built your company. But so when you were, let's go back to what you do. So, obviously, every startup. So we're prop tech, right? So every startup has to have at some point customer support people. They're going to have sales people. They're going to have accounting people. They're going to have all these business operational support folks, right? That as you
Right,
grow your business, you need.
right,
So it's not just engineers that you need, but you can provide all sorts of different types of talent that you need, marketing people and all these other different things. And with your focus on, giving a leg up to people that might not have it, I think
mhm,
that's great. I think I think most startups are in the world of, or in have a vision of making the world a better place at some point with whatever they're trying to take on. But if they could do that in how they hire people too,
yes.
I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for sure. So, what do you see on? Are you just in? You said you're going to Texas. You're going to Tennessee. What do you think your value proposition is compared to, say, the workforce commissions of each state? Like Texas has Texas Workforce Commission. What is your true like differentiator?
That's a great question. I love that you asked that question because I actually was talking to the team in Michigan for their within their state and their lieutenant governor's team recently in reference to that same question. We
Mhm.
are an enablement tool that Rise specifically to actually create all those opportunities for those partners to collaborate more efficiently together. So
Oh,
typically,
okay.
those organizational partners, they fund a repertoire of organizations, and it could
Mm-hmm.
be sometimes hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
not-for-profits that they fund. But oftentimes, those not-for-profits do not collaborate with each other. And
Yeah.
oftentimes they just send, maybe reports. Sometimes it's paperwork. It can be very convoluted. And sometimes a lot of data is missed. And
Mm-hmm.
so we simplify that process. And then the fact that we are able to not only add their non-for-profit partners, but also their employee partners can post their jobs independently and
Okay.
and they can say that they work directly with, let's say, one of our direct partners in Chicago. It's the Chicago Urban League. Let's say that the Chicago Urban League has a partnership with ComEd. Then
Mm-hmm.
ComEd can say that they are posting this job for community members that are coming from the Urban League and or open to the entire community in that proximity. And
That's
so
cool.
um and that report can be so granular to understand not only those employment gaps, but also if
Mm-hmm.
people have mental health barriers, legal barriers, housing barriers. And so those specialty not-for-profits that focus in that can be triggered and informed to support those individuals based on that need itself. So
Mm.
that, and then particularly on those commissions that you just mentioned, those groups of institutions that are supporting individuals, we able to granularly understand finite to the point of zip codes of where the biggest barriers are within those zip codes. So,
Oh, well, yeah, that's cool.
and
Yeah,
so
for sure.
and with that information, they can better, align funding resources and
Mm-hmm.
also, to another point of efficiency across non-profits and or the gaps that they may have within their service delivery so that they can get better support to enable
Right.
that scale. And so there's a number of facets in which we add value within
Mm-hmm.
those organizational partners.
So, yeah, I mean, I would venture to guess that most of the folks that you're serving have several challenges, like transportation's one, right? But it also could be the internet connectivity. Like they might not have the internet, right? So how are they
Mhm.
supposed to go get a job if they can't get to the internet? So are the nonprofits really trying to embrace that too that you're seeing? And then does your solution help with like, I mean, besides the services of just basically, which is in itself, it's great. I mean, you're taking a very fragmented industry and trying to bring it all together so people can talk to one another and more can
Yes,
get done, right? At the
indeed.
end of the day. But
Yes.
I'm just curious on what you because you're talking to those agencies
Mhm.
about the internet connectivity problem and how bad is it in some of the communities you're working in?
Sure. No, a great question. I would say that how we alleviate those challenges is finding partners that support in that specifically. So
Okay.
there actually are some partners that support with transportation needs, right?
Yeah.
There's also some partners that support on internet access, even computer donations as well.
Okay.
So I will say that that's also variant per locale, right? Because
Mhm.
of the available resources that are there. But that's where we ourselves at Rise could try our best to bring all those resources together so that people can be better informed. And so,
Mhm.
um, and then we go about ourselves within our own work to find new allies to add value to the participants that come in within our community. So, which is why we search out for more employers outside of just
Mhm.
waiting for the partners to add their employer partners on board as well. And
Right.
so, and so it becomes a full cycle supportive resource tool.
That's very cool. So let's go back to when you're building your tech. You're not techie, and you're like me. You just had an idea and like this is what it needs to be, right? This is
Right.
what we need to go do. All right. So how did you find your first tech person, or how did you find your development team? What was that like?
Sure. I when I was on board day to day with Rise Kit, I would say that way that we identified the right talent was one, the passion, because it's a startup. There's unknown for the future, and finding someone that believes in the mission, but also has the pedigree and understanding to deliver it efficiently, right? And
Mhm.
so it took us a couple of roll of a dice, I would say, to get to the right moment
Yeah.
and the right person, right? And but we recognized that it was in our allies and our partners that invested in us and still are today, so, like
Mhm.
believed in that vision. So we were able to get an MVP off the ground, and those things that we recognize, not only just the individual's qualities in terms of that passion element, but also
Mhm.
their ability to deliver on the tech side. And so to kind of get a sense of like our differentiating understanding because of our learning gap, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is
Mhm.
identifying allies and mentors that understand it a lot more in detail. And so we combed out as many advisors that we could and brought them on board within RiseKit as advisors. They gave us some insights that allowed us to better navigate the situations. They also helped us with interviews at times, and
Mhm.
um, that could be across the board with both behavior but also technical interviews in that
Mhm.
respects. And so we really attached ourselves on a model of building community when it comes
Mhm.
to the right fit folks when we brought on board individuals to our team. And that really worked. I would say really worked out. I mean, there was some iterations where we had a dev shop one or two that didn't deliver to what we expected, right? But those are lessons learned, and we were able to, I would say, take that and consistently communicate. And that's the thing, right?
Mhm.
When addressed with something you just can't control, you gotta consistently communicate on all the parties that are involved because with us we were in a stage of launching into new markets and
Right.
or with pretty large customers which we oftentimes were at times customizing some aspects of the tool based on their needs. And so there were certain forecasted, I would say, sprints that we would kind of look towards and for those that are not familiar, sprints towards basically project development goals so that ultimately it can kind of come into fruition. So we lean on those expectations and share transparently where we are. And
Interesting.
and
Okay.
so we
Who are you sharing that with? Your potential customers, like investors,
both
anybody, the
sides.
whole community?
The I
Okay.
would say the investors and our
Uh-huh.
partners that the
Okay.
partners that were coming in.
Okay.
Um and and so because there were some that were already on the platform and some that were looking
Yeah.
more past it. So there were certain elements of that, right? And um, that affected our product development lifecycle. And so also we
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that the product was strong enough to maintain the large amount of volume that was coming in and the
Yeah.
user were coming in. And so I would say that it allowed us to be more mindful about what to actually look towards within the sprints themselves in that given quarter. So
Yep.
we what we did was we segmented, our expectations by quarter, but then also really challenged the dev team and also the QA team to really give us pointed directions on the difficulty and what I call um basically like red alerts and or
Yeah.
um if the actual product is so for example, let's say that you look at a integration
Mhm.
and we ask them share the difficulty level of that integration, be it being one for really easy or five for that red alert. And
Wow,
so
that's good.
um and then from there based on so and that one is at that green light
Right.
basically, right? And so that way we get a sense of if this element is red alert or it takes a lot of energy, a lot of hours to get done, it's pretty difficult. What other resources can we help those engineering team members to get across the hurdle in reference to
Mhm.
that? But also those other things that are a little bit easier to get done, maybe we prioritize those a little bit quicker so that those things kind of get out into the platform over time. And then that way we have
Right.
a little more expectations on what's actually realistic to deliver in that given time frame that we're looking to do internally, but also what we share with the customer.
So were you sharing those alerts? Was that something you were sharing, like with them
Well,
going,
into
hey,
this,
this is our next roadmap and this is like our priorities? Were you okay? All right.
yes, we were sharing the roadmap, right? We were sharing the
Yeah,
roadmap, and that better informed the users, and then that also allowed our product to be built with them, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
And and now they're becoming legacy partners, right?
yeah.
And when it comes to SaaS sales, and why I find that Netflix and so many other like great companies are successful is that there's a reason to come back.
Hmm.
And when you're building a product, you gotta have a reason for the partner to come back.
Yeah.
And and so
I mean, it
yes.
becomes its own, inherent marketing tool because you're always talking about product improvements and what you're
Hmm.
planning on doing. So then it's a good way to market it and stay top of mind in front of, your customers and investors. But how frequent was the communication? Did you have a regular cadence, like weekly, monthly? What
Once a
did you
quarter,
once a
we're more
quarter?
so, yeah. Once a
Okay.
quarter was how it was. If it was a more intimate partner that was a little more hands on to the product development side, so the
Uh-huh.
once a quarter was more so for the investor side of things, and
Yep.
then if it was a partner that was a little more intimately involved, then they themselves may have a more bi-weekly, once a month update based on where we were within the product itself. But
Okay.
the and I will also say that there's a saying that goes that it's better to basically uh, like share your expectations, like don't share as much to get done, but rather share just enough. And so, and what I mean by that is,
Interesting. Yeah, no,
so
I know what you're checking. You don't want to
yeah,
promise it. You don't
right.
want
You
to
don't want
promise
to
it.
overpromise,
You don't want to
right?
overpromise. So you guys see under promise, over deliver. A lot of that. As long as though that there's a fine line there, right? Like you want to completely under promise, right? Because then you like everybody's been around the block like a couple of times and they figure out what you're doing, right? So if you set realistic expectations of, hey, this is what we're thinking we can accomplish, that's great, right? Don't
Yes,
overpromise, but be realistic. Don't just completely
exactly.
underpromise too. Like, don't do
Right,
that,
exactly.
right?
Because you don't want to like drown out the process. Because that's the one thing that
Yeah,
we also want to make sure that we consistently do, and what we believe in as well is there's an element of delivering with efficiency
right,
and doing it timely, right? Because there's
right.
we want to get these things out quick, right?
Mhm.
Ideally with products, and but we also want to deliver with expectation and recognize what's
Yeah.
actually feasible based on within the product ability currently.
I like the red alert system too because if I don't know how much you were sharing, but if a lot of people who are your investors and partners don't know the first thing about what it takes to make software, right? They don't have a clue. So if you can say, this is a really long project,
Mhm.
FYI, versus these are really short and we can get these done quicker, that
Yes.
just gives them more information. So they're not always, sometimes when you do frequent communications, which I've learned, is you set an expectation of what they're going to see and what's going to happen. And oh, well, they were getting like a ton of stuff done now, but now they're only doing two things. Like, what's that? What's that all about, right? And so I find it, yeah. So by sharing, hey, these are two major things that we have to do that we're trying to get done, and it's going to take a lot. So don't forget. I would guess just don't forget in your communication that level of detail. Now, obviously, don't overshare, but
Right.
but it's enough. Give them enough information where they can go, oh, okay, right?
Hmm.
And you know what I mean? So yeah.
Exactly. And so, like in those lessons, right, building out Rise Kit, which is why I've been advising the dev shop, Simba Technology Revolutions, on those aspects, right?
Right.
Because we recognize that these companies, these startups, right, they don't always understand how to navigate that. And so, which is why, like, for me, building out Rise Kit, I want to be able to help other startups, which is why we developed Simba Technology Revolutions so that
Hmm.
ultimately it can be a pointed solution and guidance. And so we not only do that for them on the product side of things, but also helping them find investors, right?
Hmm.
Finding resources and getting them into spaces that can elevate their product goals as well. So there's
Yeah.
it's really fulfilling to see other companies able to grow and be more efficient within their customer base and how they deliver their solution to the
Mhm.
communities as well. So,
So talk about that. So talk about Simba a little bit and what it's doing. And oh, by the way, is this totally from Lion King? I gotta know. I
yeah,
mean,
there's
did you steal it from Lion King?
I
Really?
wouldn't say I stole it from Lion King, rather, but Lion King stole it from the community because it's an
Oh,
open
yeah.
word, right? But I would say there is a lot of heart to the I would say the kindred spirit of the Lion King itself, and
Mhm.
courage and the fierceness, but also being
Yeah.
having the up and down moments. But there's an element of simple technology revolutions where folks are revolutionizing opportunities and doing it at scale, but in a way that is changing things for the better from
Mhm.
where it was yesterday. And so
Right.
um, I would say that I've been advising as one of the board members and investors to Simba, and it's a boutique software development consulting firm, and
Hmm.
all the talent is coming out of Africa, as I alluded to earlier. And
It's great.
we started working with small and mid-sized businesses to help them
Mhm.
scale their products, so that ultimately they can have a one-stop shop to their solutions. And so, um, it's a nimble team, but they get it done. They work long hours, even on weekends. And yeah, it's fun to see their growth as I've been in the distance.
For sure. And like I know that there's starting, so I do, so as the US Prop Tech Council,
Hmm.
I talk with a lot of prop tech folks around the world. And it's
Hmm.
interesting to see that Africa is becoming more and more engaging with technology, and there's more and more associations. So I talked to someone in South Africa. I know that there's a group, and obviously Lagos, Nigeria is one of the largest cities. Like it's huge. And there's a
Indeed.
big prop tech association there. And then Uganda has I know so they're but prop tech, like it's not like they're behind the times because we just started our council this year. So it's not like it's, prop tech in general is very new, right? Europe has been a little, they've been around, the European associations have been around for like maybe 4 years,
Sure.
maybe, maybe five. But it's not been a it's not like it's a legacy thing. So PropTech has the ability to be the great equalizer, and a fact that, we're all, it's one global problem that everyone has. You have to live somewhere, you have to build a building, you have to manage
Hmm.
that building, you have to get rent for it if you're leasing it out, right? Or there's
Yes.
homes. I mean, it's like a global issue that everyone has, and it's very simple. And our industry is solving these worldwide, right? And we have people
Yes.
doing solving these solutions worldwide. Now there might be little nuances around codes and regulations or whatever, and
Hmm.
languages, but that's it. Like everything else is pretty much similar. You build it pretty much the same way. You rent it pretty much the same way.
Yes, and I
Those kind
agree.
of things.
There's really all the segments and fundamentals of it is all the same, and I'm a real estate investor as well, so seeing the intertwined elements of it, and oftentimes, I have friends that come to me about their own product ideas in relation to that, and I refer them to the right parties that support that. But then it's really intriguing, and I agree. Like, and I know if I'm not mistaken, is over 2 million like housing shortage in the US, something of that nature.
It's 4
It's
million
four, so
actually.
I'm off
Yeah.
by half of that amount,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And so
Hmm.
I know that there's an opportunity there for folks to
Yeah.
collaborate, scale. So it's really
Yeah.
intriguing. It's another subject that some folks that I know that are part of that, but it's a
Yeah.
space.
No, I mean it is. We have a shortage of housing. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
not going to get any better anytime soon. And we only can produce so many units a year.
Yeah.
So in order to catch up, but what the good thing about this is that technology is going to lead the real estate industry out of its quagmire. It's going to be technology driven, right? Technology will be the catalyst that gets us from where, and the technology is not just software. The technology is
Right.
in material science. The
Yes. Yes.
technology is in different methods and processes of building and
Mhm.
managing. I mean, it's really super interesting to see
Mhm.
all the new
Mhm.
things that are coming out that are going to
3D printing.
really, yeah, 3D printing. And now
Ah,
there's one University of Maine, they can 3D print a house in 80
yes.
hours. Like, and then there's another one over in Germany where they cut that down to like half. And they're just like you can 3D print things. So, but then there's other materials that are even better and stronger and lighter that you can use for
Mhm.
houses. You can lose it. I mean, it's
Yes.
amazing to see all the technology that's going to be out there. So I think I'm glad uh, I don't know about you, but I'm glad that the challenges are here because it's forcing us to innovate, right?
Yes.
Real estates have been a very um, reticent to adopt technology, and so it's now like it's getting its butt handed to it, and so it has
Yeah.
to innovate,
For
which
sure.
is
No,
great.
you're right. There's a lot of changes that's happening to it in many, good and bad ways. But I also know that it's opened up for opportunities, right?
Yeah,
And I think you hit it on the word on the nail when you mentioned innovation, right? To really push one's
yeah.
current state to be evolved and blossom to new states. So
Yeah, no, no, for sure. So it's in its little chrysalis and it's going to come out and be a butterfly at some
yes,
point, but we'll see when that happens and we'll see what it goes and see what it looks like. But no, I think it's going to be ever evolving, but I do think the you can stick your head in the sand and real estate's going to make you money motto, it does not work. And you are going to have to grow up a little bit and mature as an operator and mature as a company and be professional about it, right? You can't get away with just, doing the same old thing. And I think part of it is because your tenants and your buyers and whoever are going to demand it from you. They're going to demand that you have a portal. They're going to demand they can pay their rent online. They're going to demand this and
mhm,
demand that. Otherwise, they're not going to live there or they're not going to rent from you or not office there or whatever it might be. Right. So you got to get with it. And if you're not with it, you're just going to lose money. So
yeah.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for sure. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What areas in Africa does Simba do? Like, are they all the whole continent? Or are they focused in certain regions? I'm just curious.
Yeah, great question. So there, from what I understand, for what the team shares with me, there's talent throughout the continent.
Right.
There's talent in Kenya, Malawi. You mentioned one country, Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware that the team has folks in South Africa, even Mauritius, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's definitely a cascade of talent across the board. And as I alluded to earlier, they focus on full stack, and so they're able to make
Oh,
mobile
okay.
applications.
Okay.
And they also there's some data scientists out there that we've gotten some folks that have worked on some incredible projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say too that there's I mean, outside of them historically working for companies such as Hacker Bay, Microsoft, and
Mm-hmm.
Goldman Sachs, right? There's also partners that we're engaged with at Simba that train talent as well, and so
That's
that
cool.
upskilling element. And so I actually used to live uh, on the continent at some point in my life,
Mm.
post university,
Oh, okay.
and I it was eye-opening and very warm experience. It wasn't my first time on the continent, but it was my longest stint of what while I lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And but I find that we have feet, and we all have feet. Those that are blessed to have them, and we why not? We walk and see the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, totally agree with you. That's awesome. Oh, so cool. Well, this has been such a good conversation. This is awesome. I totally love this. You brought so much value today. It's been so cool. All
thank you.
right. Well, I'll let you give like your last parting thoughts. You got any other insights for startup founders as they're building out their stuff? What else you got? What you got in
I'm
there?
a big believer in action every day, right? There's a big element of there's a analogy that I give in reference to this. A lot of folks are familiar with compound interest on money. Imagine compound interest on time.
Mhm.
And when we spend that time and how that compounds towards action and those results that come from that action. And so I believe I'm a firm believer that when we do that significantly in our lives, that we're bound to I actually magnate opportunities to us
Mhm.
eventually. And so I think that's a pointed message in that. And I'm never too far. I'm happy to be a resource. Folks can reach me at my email dwilson@risekit.co. And I'm also on Instagram, which is DWIL Inspire, INSPIRE.
Mhm.
And I'm also on LinkedIn. You'll find me at Dominique Wilson, search Chicago, and just find his face, and I'll be right there.
You'll find
But
your
I'm,
face.
I'm, I'm an
Yeah.
ally. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'm just humbled, Amy, for you for welcoming me. I mean, it was such a pleasure to meet you in Austin. Oh my God, that
Oh
was
yeah.
a
Yeah. If everybody doesn't know that story, we met at a bar. We met at South by
but it was
Southwest,
at
and
the
Southwest was
yes,
fun. It was such a good place. I mean, it
yes,
was
it
a,
was. Yes,
yeah,
the Founders Inc. had hosted it at that
yeah,
place. It
yeah,
was just
yeah.
incredible
It
the
was, and
caliber of
I met a
individuals.
ton of people there at South by and Founders. That was, yeah, Inc. The
Yes,
magazine. It was Founders
yes,
House, right? Founders or Funded.
yes.
One of they had
Mm-hmm.
so many houses. I get
Yeah,
confused
you
on the
too.
houses. I get, but yeah, but we bumped into each other and we just had a cool conversation. We're like, oh yeah, no, no, no. And then we
Mhm.
here we are, and here we are later on a podcast. This is how this rolls, y'all. It's awesome. So
I
so
love
cool.
it. I'm just humbled. Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Spell Rise Kit. Is it just like Rise, Risekit? Is that what it is?
Yes, you got
Okay.
it on the nail.
All right.
RISEKIT.
All
And you
right.
can find us .co. But if you just search Rise Kit, there's nothing like us.
That's
So
awesome. Very cool.
so we're humbled by that uniqueness, while also our impact. So I'm just humbled. And then the other is Simba Technology Revolutions.
Mhm.
And but we're here to support. So
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
thank you. Appreciate the welcome.